This just in. The tick monster boldly goes where no man has gone before. The Klingons want to see your pain. And Sarek gets super mind melody this week on the Honey Darling Show. Hey, welcome to the Honey Darling Show. We are your hosts. I'm Trey Tardigrade Johnson.
I'm Jess.
My beautiful co-host, Jess, is here.
That's
as
sweet.
always.
Thanks,
We are
honey.
together to talk about the second part of Star Trek Discovery. Or as I like to call it, and the way the crews like to call it, Star Trek Disco. Right?
Do they call... Oh, yeah, because she has a t-shirt.
Because they jog in shirts that say disco, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, we're not going to do a further reading thing because we already did that about Star Trek last time. Because since this is a continuation of our last Star Trek Discovery episode, why don't we just jump into it? A lot has happened since last time we talked. You know, last time we were just talking about how cool the Tick Monster was, which we referred to him as the Tick Monster. It turns out he's a giant tardigrade that's like evolved over years and found a way to communicate with the spores and basically teleport the ship anywhere that it wants to go to.
Somehow tardigrades have this advanced network of... It's like memory, kind of, that touches everything, and so they can BAMF, basically.
I always liked tardigrades. I thought they were cool because they like live...
Water bears, right?
Yeah, water bears. They like live
They
forever,
look so cool
and they're like super microscopic and
Yeah.
have these really cool like claw mouths, sort
Suction
of. You know?
alien mouths.
And it's cool that that became a character. I mean, we were just talking about how cool it was as a horror episode, like on that third episode of the last time we talked about Star Trek, but ended up being like a character on the show, I guess. They did like a 3-episode arc about it, and Michael like felt remorse about the tardigrade and eventually released it. And actually the Anthony Rapp, like what is it? I don't remember what his name is on the show. You know, the guy from Rent. We got to see, and another thing crazy, like I can't believe this is the first homosexual like relationship
He's gay.
on Star Trek in what?
Jeez,
I mean, not like 50 years since it was out. Like it started in 66.
Yeah.
So 2016 was the 50th anniversary of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I read, like, I did a little research about it. I was like, there's no way that this, like, with all the seasons that Star Trek had done, that there had not been a homosexual relationship in it, or an openly gay character, is what it said. This is the first openly gay character, but there's two. They're together. But it's like that had never been done before. I'm so surprised because, like, Gene Roddenberry was very much about, like, equality and all that, and he was very pro-gay also. Like, I read an interview thing, well, not like an interview, but he said that he actually was planning on having a openly gay character in Next Generation, like in the 80s when he was doing it, like in late 80s. And I wonder what happened. Like, was it just a big like network thing where they just weren't into it at that time?
I'm going to say that the
ultimately
AIDS
didn't have
epidemic
one.
happened.
Yeah, I guess.
And everybody was so afraid of AIDS and so afraid of gay people,
of homosexuals,
and made to be so by the news
that they probably couldn't get it past CBS or whoever.
That they're no matter what they did.
That's a shame, though, because
but Star Trek has always been really forward thinking in that way, really like looking beyond the time when we have religion, looking beyond the time when women are actually treated equal.
That's what was so great about the show. Was
women are theoretically treated equal. Like, we have laws that mean that we need to be treated equally, but we're not. Nobody fucking thinks we are.
Yeah.
And if you do, you're stupid and wrong. And the first interracial kiss ever on TV.
Yeah, I read some stuff about that too. I was telling Jess about it, but we haven't said it on here. Apparently, that was another thing with the networks where they made them do both sides of it. They wanted to do one where Uhura and Kirk kissed, and one where they didn't. And they purposely shot the one where they didn't kiss, and they both of them like purposely fucked it up.
Like, they just acted so shittily.
Yeah,
they couldn't choose that take.
Yeah, they basically did. They like phoned it in or whatever. However, I forget the exact term that they said.
So ballsy.
But they basically did like they did their own terrible version of it to make sure that they had to do the other one, because otherwise they would have to cut it out of the episode. And if you cut it out of the episode, then it had a big part. It was important to the episode. Like, it wouldn't have made any sense if they cut it out. So they basically kind of got cornered to where they had to show it. So that was kind of a cool, like, behind the scenes, inside,
badass.
inside baseball thing where like the crew was all for it. And they're like, well, let's just like not let's just kind of fuck up the other one so they can't really use it, And it wasn't like they messed, like anything was technically bad. The performance was not as good, and they were just kind of like, well, we should use this other one. So, and they only did one. They only did one of them not kissing. And they kind of hammed it up and all that to make sure.
to make sure they didn't have to pick it.
Yeah, make sure they wouldn't use it. So that's really cool. But yeah, Star Trek was always ahead of the curve. And I was really surprised, actually, that there was never a gay character before in all the series of Star Trek. There was, I figured
it's surprising that it didn't happen in the 80s and early 90s. But we haven't, I don't know. When was the last Star Trek?
I thought Enterprise was like... Enterprise was like 99,
they could have done it in Enterprise, right? Even though Enterprise was a prequel. They could have made people gay before.
Oh, they could have easily done it because it would have already been there,
Yeah. Especially if they're going to wipe out the existence of the whole fucking show.
Which I don't think they might have now, though. So that's a little bit of a positive thing because... we'll jump around, of course, through the different episodes, but...
Oh, yeah, but they mentioned Jonathan.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Jonathan Archer was in it. Saru, who was my favorite alien that I talked about last time we talked about this. There's an episode, the one, like I said in the intro, where the captain gets abducted by Klingons, and he's off the ship, so, Saru becomes captain because he's the first officer, and he basically goes through this... He talks to the computer and asks the computer to tell him all of the notable captains over the years. And Jonathan Archer is in there, which was Scott Bakula's character from Enterprise, if you didn't know. But that must mean that Enterprise did happen, right? Because we talked about before how awful it is at the end of the show. Riker was pretty much watching a tape of it or whatever, and it's like some fucking home movie he saw or whatever. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I've read enough about it, but it's really saddens me to see it, so it's been hard for me to bring myself to see it. But regardless, it, made it not part of the canon, but it might be part of the canon now. Because Jonathan Archer was on there. The captain was on there that Michael got killed. She was on there too. And which is kind of like, I don't know how much she did. I mean, maybe she did other stuff aside from... we only saw her in a couple episodes.
Well, obviously she was a beloved captain.
But Commander Pike was in there too, which is cool.
Yep.
The guy, the one who... Well, the menagerie. The guy who's in which you'll remember from the Futurama episode, where you have to sit in the chair and do the beeps.
Yep.
But yeah, Pike was in there, who was the captain before Kirk and all that. So it was nice to have a little bit of reference in there, but it was really nice to see Jonathan Archer in there. So maybe Enterprise did exist now. But yeah, that was a crazy episode. Was that the first or the second one? So the episode right after the one that we did was basically Michael, they take... It ended, when we talked last, it ended with the captain having the tick monster, as we called it, or the tardigrade. He had it in his crazy room where he had the Gorn skeleton, which we didn't mention that last time, but apparently that's a Gorn that he has in there. The Gorn being
you looked it up.
The guy. I mentioned it on another Star Trek podcast that I listened to, but it totally looks like a Gorn, like the one that he had
it does
in there,
100%.
which is crazy because Kirk. When Kirk found the Gorn, they had never seen that before. But once again, maybe they disappear. Maybe they all die and then nobody finds out about it. But if he found a skeleton and maybe never saw a live Gorn, I'd understand that. Maybe he just had that for his collection. But he has it in this weird room. He put the monster in there, and in the next episode, he takes Michael in there and talks to her about the tick monster, and she figures out that it communicate with these spores, through and then there's this crazy part where that lady lets it out and decides that she's gonna kill it and take its arm off and kill Klingons with it. Do you remember that? That was the most ridiculous thing ever. The one that gets killed, and I was I'm kind of glad she got killed.
I remember the lady who gets killed
because she was really dumb. Well, she opens the door and she goes in there with the blaster, and she's I'm gonna take its hand off because it can kill Klingons, and she wanted to make a weapon out of its hand, out of the claw.
What a cunt.
Which is such a dumb idea. So when she got killed, or when she got redshirted or whatever, I wasn't really that mad about it. Because I was that was a really dumb movie, or that was a really dumb move. And you probably should have died for doing that. Because that was really dumb. Don't let the thing out and then provoke it and then be mad that it killed you. It's duh, of course it's going to kill you.
Duh.
And it's a dumb idea to cut its arm off and make a weapon out of it anyway. Like, leave it alone. But through all of this, Michael, like, finds out a way to make the tick monster basically become like the engine for the ship, you know, to help them do this crazy warp thing where they like flip over and then can like show up in a whole different part of space.
I remember what I wanted to say.
So they become Space Avengers for a minute, where they like go around and they're like, we will fight all of the Klingon fights.
What's really interesting about this show is that we know what happens on either side of it. So it's kind of like we have a bit of a fortune telling. So we know what's going to stick and what's not. So we know that even though they made this tardigrade the engine of the ship, that's not how we travel.
No.
We don't travel by tardigrade. We travel by a warp engine. So we know that no matter what, like, this is a finite technology. It's not going to last. So I thought it was interesting. In the beginning of, like, every kind of storyline, we know the end of the storyline.
Sure.
So it's cool to be like, okay, I know what's going to happen in the Klingon War. I know that there's eventually going to be peace-ish, but definitely, like, peace with the Federation, if not peace within the 24 houses of the Klingons. You know, we know where they're going to come to an agreement.
Yeah.
So let's watch the journey. Like, that, it's interesting. But I don't know.
But we also don't, I mean, we don't know what'll become of Michael or, like, the captain or Suru or, I mean, all of them can die because they're not, they were not really.
They sure can, yeah.
Whereas, like, it kind of, you could say the same thing, like having like Sarek in there, you know, like in that final episode that we watched, the final one that we, you know, that was on, like there's the episode 6. Sarek gets attacked by an exploding Vulcan, you know, on a ship, but there's not the tension of being like, oh my God, is Sarek going to die? Because we know that Sarek isn't going to die.
Because he's going to live for a long ass time.
Because he's going to live in a next generation. So there's that side of it too, which kind of destroys it. So if there's too many characters that you know live on farther in Star Trek, it doesn't have as much tension of it. So there's the other side, I guess.
It doesn't have as much tension.
But I was saying, like what you're saying, like with the tick monster, you know that probably isn't going to go. It's obviously not going to be in there because we don't see it later.
Right.
But then there's also the other side where it's like, our main characters, like we don't know what's going to happen to them because we haven't seen them.
But it doesn't bother, the thing is, it doesn't bother me to know the ending of these storylines. I mean, these like broad endings. Mm-hmm. It makes me feel relaxed in a way that isn't bad.
Oh, okay.
It takes like the worry out of some things. Like I wasn't worried that we were going to be traveling by tick monster, you know?
Yeah.
I wasn't worried for his health and safety. Mm-hmm. Because I know that that's not what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried that Sark was going to die because I know he's going to live.
Yeah.
So I could watch his storyline in a less stressful way.
Okay.
Which sounds pansy-ish. I mean, it doesn't sound like a good thing.
But don't they want you to like fear for Sarek's life and all that?
But it felt okay. Like I don't know, it felt good for me to like just enjoy the story without having to fucking worry about everything.
Well, I knew that Sarek was going to live, and that wasn't really something that would have been like, oh, I need to be on the edge of my seat or anything like that. But what I enjoyed about it was I liked that they explored Michael more during that part. Like that's kind of what I was interested in, which we're talking about the 6th episode.
Well, yeah, the story, I mean, yes, it was really interesting to see the storyline between them and to see, and to also see the relationships, the feelings between them. Yeah. And also for Sarek to realize earlier, you know, than to kind of see the moment maybe where Sarek realized his humanity instead of his Vulcaninity. Like, he knows
he's full Vulcan, but he's still
human. But he knows he feels like shit about this. He feels terrible and crappy.
Yeah, well, he lost in both ways. Like it's in this episode, he gets like I said, he gets attacked by this exploding Vulcan, and Michael feels it and has to like kind of find him in this mind meld. But it shows like her, basically what happened to her, like and how she feels like she's his disappointment, and it's not really his.
But in fact, he disappointed himself.
But I thought it was cool. What I wanted to get at is I thought it was kind of cool that like in the end he like lost in two ways. Like he chose Spock to go to school, but then Spock joined the Starfleet, and he didn't choose her, and she felt like she failed him. So like he fucked up both ways. Like neither of his choices worked.
Yeah, and he felt sorry.
Oh yeah, no, he felt like he was a failure.
He felt shitty about that,
he made the wrong decision.
That's not Vulcan.
No, you're right.
But I mean, but in Discovery, No, in Enterprise, sorry. Mm-hmm. In Enterprise, there's a Vulcan in Enterprise too.
Yes.
And she tells us that it's that Vulcans have trained themselves into thinking this way.
It's not,
It's not innate. It's not born into them.
Wasn't that the division between Romulans and Vulcans?
Yeah.
Because Romulans were more into the emotional side of things and the Vulcans weren't, and I thought that was where a lot of that came from.
Yes, totally. And so Vulcans cultivated this idea that logic is the way forward. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean they don't have those feelings. They have them.
They have to fight against them.
Yes, they are constantly suppressing them and not talking about them. Mm-hmm. But Sarek has later, has been an example of how you can be logical and emotional.
Yeah.
Like you can admit the emotional side of you.
Well, that was like the full-on arc of Spock, too. Because
sure. Totally.
Because Spock was both. And we got to see Amanda for a second there in the vision as well. The Spock's mother.
His mom, yeah.
Yeah. And, but yeah, that's kind of like what Spock was. And I think are you talking about when Sarek was on Enterprise or when he was in Next Generation?
Yeah, when he was in the Next Generation.
I felt like it was kind of a continuation of Spock because that was like basically what Spock was, that he was both. He had both. He had like the Vulcan and half Vulcan, half human. But he was, he showed a lot of emotion actually in the original series. He did.
Of course he did,
and, and he and then later he dies for his captain and all that. And it's, I feel like that was kind of his arc, I guess.
Absolutely.
Exactly what you said as a Vulcan as well. So, So Sarek did win because he raised somebody who liked the same thing. That's what he wanted.
He totally did win. He just can't see it.
Yeah. But I like that stuff. Like, I feel like a lot of the stuff that they've been doing with Michael lately, because I didn't really care much for her at the beginning, they're developing her better, Because she just seemed like a very, like, stone cold,
just that that
we do this way, or maybe she didn't have a whole lot of depth to her, or there wasn't much for me to really find interesting, I guess, from the beginning. I'm talking like from our first Star Trek episode that we did.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking like
where she betrayed the captain.
Here's the thing: is we don't have a very long time before she's a mutineer.
Yeah.
She almost does that immediately, instantaneously. We have no background knowledge of her whatsoever. Yeah. We have almost no knowledge of anyone at all. It's the first thing that happens. And so now we're getting to know her as a person, and we're doing that we did it a lot through Sarek, but also through her roommate.
Sylvia Tilly.
Sylvia.
They refer to him as their last names, so it's
Tilly.
Officer Tilly and Captain Lorca. I don't remember his name. Which we all got to talk about him.
So we learn about her through Tilly. Yeah. What's fucking Rent boy's name?
Anthony Rapp. Stamets.
So we learn about her through her interactions with these people, Stamets and Tilly.
Well, what I found that I liked about her was back to the tick monster. Like, she figures out that this thing can help them travel very quickly from different places, and they can go help out all these different skirmishes with the Klingons and all that. But at the same time, she finds out that it's killing this creature, and they kind of pretty much say it that, like, they find out that this creature feels pain. It's like a sentient creature, and this is something that the Federation would never allow. Like, they would never allow you to abuse a sentient creature to travel through,
I'm surprised that the captain didn't make it last longer.
Yeah.
Because I really don't trust him.
Make what last longer?
They didn't keep him hostage longer.
Oh, before he told Michael about it and told everybody that he had the... Are you talking about Tick Monster?
No, before they let him free.
Before they let the... Who free?
The tardigrade.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't keep him longer.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust the captain.
Oh, I thought that...
To be honorable.
I thought that Michael just kind of did it. And didn't tell anybody.
I mean, no, she did. She told them that it was hurting him, and they thought it was affecting him and whatever. And they were like, "Well, if you think that, you need to study it. You need to find out if it's true."
Yeah. Well, I mean, the time that it happened, like when she was basically like, "You got to take it out of there, otherwise it's going to die."
Yeah.
Was during time of distress because the captain was gone, and Suru was freaking out. So he was like, "You have to do it," and that actually gave Stamets gave his character more too, because he injected himself with the fucking
spores,
tardigrade DNA or whatever, and he got in there.
Yeah.
And almost died, and then had a really weird laughing part afterwards when he came to.
Celebrating the fact that he lived.
Yeah, but I mean, I liked it. That made him better because I thought he was a dick too, like from that
he was a
third
dick
episode, but
no, he became more of a human.
But he was willing to sacrifice himself for the tardigrade, and then they basically shot it into space, and it somehow disappeared with the spores. I guess that part was kind of weird.
No, because it thrives on this invisible network of spores and it can bamf through them. That's what it did.
Okay, so yeah, just because they ended up releasing it, which was
releasing it. It found its like spore path.
Mm-hmm. It was it was a good story arc, I thought, for the tardigrade, because it helped build up Michael. That like she was smart enough to figure out. Well, I mean, she's obviously super intelligent, and she figured out that this creature could do this, but then she had more stuff. Then she's like, "Oh wait, no, we're hurting it though," and then she fought to get it let go and all that.
Yeah. You know what I think we should talk about?
What?
The new guy.
Oh, okay. The new guy from the Klingons or Mud?
No, not Mud.
Oh, you want to talk about the guy that Lorca picked up, at
Mr. Fancy Pilot Man.
Yeah. So Lorca, we were saying like
he's the fucking what's it called? What's the Star fucking Wars guy? Poe Dameron. He's the Poe Dameron.
Oh, he's the Poe Dameron. He's just basically got good looks, but doesn't really do anything.
He's got good looks, and he can fly like a bitch.
Yeah, and he can
Poe Dameron,
and he can like somehow
what's his name?
Transport from one planet to another just because
magically.
He looks
what's
nice.
His name?
It is Tyler. Ash Tyler is his name. So
Ash Tyler.
Ash Tyler.
It's not as good as Poe Dameron.
Yeah, Ash Tyler's kind of around that like swoopy, whatever, like I'm fancy name. So yeah, Lorca, which I want to talk about how weird this one was. This was in that second episode that we're talking about, episode 5, where at the beginning, Captain Lorca's getting told off for like doing all this shit with the Klingons and all that. And he's like sitting in it. We both said this was weird. He's sitting at a table and he like closes his eyes and all of a sudden he's in a ship getting attacked by Klingons.
It's bizarre.
You remember how weird that cut was?
It is a weird ass cut. Yeah. I didn't know if things were then or now or when or how.
I didn't know what was going on either because it was like a really weird cut. It's like he's just like, he's like, oh wait, no, now we're getting attacked.
And I'm like, place.
I'm like, why are you out here?
Is
like,
it a flashback? Is it a flash forward? What the fuck is happening?
It felt like a really cheap way to just get him into the action already because it's like we need to lose the captain because we got to have a catalyst to basically get us to like I was saying, the stuff with the Tick Monster and with Suru and with Michael. We need all this stuff to happen. So it's just they could have just. I don't know. They could just started the episode with him in space getting attacked by Klingons or something. Or
I think it would have made a lot more sense if they did because it was
jumping from
bizarre this way.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I remember I thought that was so weird.
It was jarring.
Yeah, but then he ends up getting captured, and he meets two people. He meets Rainn Wilson.
Rainn Wilson beats Bears Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, I know that from The Office.
Yep.
But he meets Rainn Wilson, who's now playing Mudd, Harry Mudd from the original series, which I always thought that was a weird thing. But you meet him, and he's still a completely despicable person and all that. And he's being kept by the Klingons. As I said earlier, the Klingons are like, choose your pain, basically asking you to...
Wait, you're going to have to tell me again. Is this before the original series?
Yeah.
It's before.
Yeah, and Harry Mudd's like sort of he's like almost like a
So it's the second thing, really. Like
the timeline?
Enterprise would be first.
I think that's
if it were real.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Then the original series.
That's what I gathered from him looking at the thing and having like Jonathan Archer on there. I think this would be after Enterprise and before the original series. Because Kirk is not on there for like Captain, for decorated captains.
I'm going to need you to make a little wall chart for me.
Of the Star Trek.
And just put them in order.
Of the Star Trek
so
timeline.
That I can always look at it and be like, okay.
Yeah, it's in between Enterprise and the original series.
So we know Mudd lives.
Yes, we know Mudd lives. But so they do like choose your pain. Mudd always chooses somebody else, gets the shit beat out of him. Somebody gets killed in there. He finds out that Ash Tyler's in there too. Lorca does a cool like captain thing where he tells
he does a secret bit of information to Mudd and a secret bit of information to Ash.
Yeah, and Mudd tells the Klingons what it is, and he has this weird like robotic ant thing that spies on him for
so then
whatever.
He knows that Mudd is the dick.
Yeah,
because he knows that one of them must be spying.
Yeah, because he tells him about his eyes, and then the Klingons torture him with bright lights and all that, like Gremlin style.
Yeah,
and then he comes back, and he ends up like him and Ash like form a bond, and he chooses Ash to get beat, but then Ash beats Klingons, blah blah blah. Anyway, they get out, they make their way out. Mudd is like, "Why don't you take us with you?" And he's like, "Fuck you." And we were watching that. You asked me if I would have taken Mudd with me or not.
Yeah, would you?
Well. I mean, if I knew, I mean, I know Mudd is a total despicable human being, so no, I wouldn't if I knew who he was. But if I just met him then and he had already like told all my shit to Klingons.
But you just leave a human life to be tortured?
Yeah, it's crazy because you know that Mudd is going to come back later
but
and he'd do something, you know, he's going to show up and probably fuck them over in some way.
I think regardless of that, I'd still save him.
Yeah, you'd still save him and keep him in a jail cell or something? Like, I don't know. Like, he's not someone to be trusted. I mean, they might not even. I mean, Lorca's. I mean, what I like about the Captain Lorca is like kind of he's like a total dick, but I kind of find him interesting for that. I guess.
Oh, he's interesting as fuck because he's a wild card.
Well, yeah, because you have no idea what the fuck he's gonna do.
No, you never know what he's gonna do. I don't trust him as far as I could throw him.
No,
I don't know what he's thinking.
But he's an interesting captain, I think. Like to explore and
well,
like.
Yeah,
but he
seems it is like interesting.
But he seems like the type of person that doesn't fuck around either. Like he's basically gonna be like. Unless he's trying to manipulate you or something.
He seems pretty heartless in that way. He's cold.
But he would definitely, this would be what he would do. It'd be like, no, fuck you, you're not coming with us.
Yeah.
You fucked up. I gave you a test. You didn't make it. You're done for it. But you know that he's going to come back later.
Definitive.
And be like, you should have killed me or you should have whatever, you know, because you know he's going to come back and do something because you don't hire Rainn Wilson for half of an episode. You know, he's going to be in the series some more, so.
I just think as a human, I couldn't leave him there to be tortured.
Yeah. What would you do with him then?
I'd knock him out and bring him along. Fucking firemen's carry him out of there.
Do you think you could fit in that weird, like, see-through plane that they got in and flew out of there in?
I mean, he'd have to.
Yeah, they had
I'd knock him out. I'd fold him up.
Yeah, they had this crazy Klingon plane that was like the invisible jet.
I'd really try to find a way because I don't think anyone deserves to be
left on a Klingon ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not at this time.
Yeah. Well,
to be like, I mean, he's a prisoner of war, basically.
Yeah.
And he deserves to be free, even if he's a fucking asshole.
Yeah. Or stand trial or whatever. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
But
throw him in fucking Texas and make him farm corn, whatever.
Take him to like Alpha City 15 or whatever they were for the spores. Like, put him there. And he can just live and farm and fuck and be fine, you know?
Yeah. But
actually, that's probably too good for him. Put him in like the per diem mines or whatever, where they found the Horta with the the carpet monsters. Put him there.
Or make him like manage a tribble farm.
Yeah, which I'll probably do eventually anyway.
Terrifying. Just saying, I just couldn't leave him behind.
Yeah. I mean, I know that he's going to come back in some way, and we're going to find out why. It's going to be like, oh, you should have, whatever. He's going to come back and do something. But that was the introduction of him. But one thing I wanted to mention at the top that I completely forgot about, but apparently every other country other than us gets this on Netflix and doesn't have to pay CBS for it and all that. Well, that sucks. But aside from that, you can watch the whole thing with Klingon subtitles. Isn't that amazing?
Not here.
Not here. On Netflix, you can. On the Netflix in, like, Europe. If you're in Europe, you can totally watch it in Klingon, which is amazing. Like, I couldn't, like, that's insane. I'd never even thought about that.
I'd be into watching it dubbed into English. Like, I'd be into watching the Klingon dubbed into English with Klingon subtitles.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like their parts? Where they're like, Tuk-chak.
Tuk-chak, chikum chago.
Yeah. Which, we forgot about that, like, I think it was the 4th episode, but there's that part where they're talking about how they ate the captain.
They
Do you remember
fucking
that?
ate her body.
They went full on cannibal and they ate the captain.
And that's how the guy in charge got to be in charge.
Yeah.
Because they thought they were all going to follow albino guy and his buddy. But this other guy swooped in and was like, everybody's hungry. I fed them and now they're mine.
Yeah.
I took over your ship.
Duchovny? Or, no, you mean...
no, it wasn't
you mean the new guy.
Yeah, the new guy.
Yeah, because there's basically the new guy and his girlfriend, which I don't remember what their names were.
But they were like, they were smart. They were like, these people are hungry, we'll feed them, they'll be ours.
Yeah.
Now they are.
We'll provide, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, they've been showing, like you said before, they've been showing, like, both sides. The Klingon side and the human side.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a pretty crazy thing where it's like, oh, yeah, you guys eat people. Okay. I didn't know that. That's pretty crazy. It's just, I guess it's, they needed food, and that's what was there. So
yeah.
And speaking of the captain, the old captain, she had a will somehow, and Michael ended up with a
telescope.
Which was that on the ship that was destroyed, or was that from
I think it was in safety somewhere.
Okay. I was like, how did it get there? But
I think, it was in space. They have it was in a capsule, in some floating capsule holding place.
Sure.
And when she died, it was like ping, and they sent it off to her.
Yeah.
And she ended up giving it to Saru.
Yeah. Yeah, I know she gave it away.
To lead the way.
Yeah, he's like, here, try this.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, Saru, when he was captain. So, we talked about the tick monster and how they let that go, and that was a cool arc. But let's, do you want to talk some more about, like, Sarek and the Vulcans and all that?
Well, I was just going to say I liked that Saru, when he was made captain, immediately he was like, I need to judge myself based on all other captains.
Yeah.
So he's like, start a program where you judge everything I do based on what the top 10 other captains in Starfleet have done.
Jonathan Archer.
Yeah.
That's how we found that
out. And then before he could find out the results of that, he was like, no, fuck it. I'm going to make my own fucking decisions.
Yeah.
Fuck what everybody else was thinking. And I thought that was a really good moment for him because he does seem subservient. He does seem unconfident.
Yeah.
And so it was great for him to have a moment where he found his confidence.
Well, yeah, I also seem like there's some, like, kind of... I mean, obviously there's bad blood between him and Michael, but there was also kind of a thing where he's like, I wanted to be the first officer of Captain Philippa.
He told her how it was.
And she... And he's like... And she died. Like, I was never... He basically said, like, you got everything that I wanted.
Yeah.
And now I'm the first officer here, but I wanted that, and you didn't let me have
that.
But
that's the person I wanted to learn from.
Yeah, he wanted that captain, not Captain Lorca. So,
yeah.
So it's kind of like... They had a nice little moment there where he's very much
But I really appreciated that he could be honest about that. That's some good shit to talk about.
For Saru, yeah.
Yeah. It was ballsy.
Actually,
and true.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So that gives him more development too.
Sure does.
Yeah, same sort of, yeah. I said before that I like him, and I still like him. He's a giant. He's a super huge dude.
I like his threat ganglia.
Yeah, is that what that's called? I couldn't remember what it is that comes out.
Threat ganglia.
Threat ganglia, yeah, because they refer to it as what it is, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, so it'll be cool, like, if you're paying attention, you'll be able to see maybe when he feels uncomfortable. You see his little
and they show it too.
Ganglia,
they're like these little, like, pink teeth thing almost that kind of pops out.
They're like, it's like a little squid tentacles.
Yeah, they're like kind of pointy and like... they're not like hard like teeth, but they look like cartoon teeth almost, just like triangles.
I never thought of them. I thought of them more tentacle-like than teeth-like.
Sure. No, I'm saying they look like them, not that they're actually like them in a physical form.
Right.
I read somewhere that the tick monster was originally going to be practical. They were originally going to do a practical effect
really?
with that. Yeah. And it ended up being that it was going to cost a lot more.
It was too much money.
They were going to try to make a crazy puppet and use it for it, and they ended up going for CGI because it would have cost way more to do the other side. But that's cool.
I mean, I applaud them for looking into it.
Yeah, that was the original plan.
You.
Was that there, and that would have been really interesting. But I guess in the end, it would have.
It would have been
costly.
really cool, and I really think like if what we're trying, I just feel like maybe what we're. I don't know actually. What I want to be happening is I want to be paying homage to the original series.
Well, you wanted it to be more like a Monster of the Week, right? That's what you're saying.
Well,
like in that way.
I like what's happening now, though. But what I did want it to be less shiny, duller, dirtier.
Yeah.
More real,
yeah.
And more practical as far as the effects are.
Sure. Like I didn't like that they went and Lucas stole the old stuff and put all those effects in there. I liked that everything was real and they were all like puppets and
yeah.
I mean, one of my favorite episodes, the Enemy Within, the one with the two Kirks, and they like have problems with the beaming and it like splits it into two Kirks. But there's the dog with the antlers stuck to its head.
Yeah.
It's like some of the best. That's just some of the best Star Trek special effects I've ever seen.
Too.
It's a dog just with antlers on its head, and it's like it's an alien dog. You get it? Oh, and speaking of stuff like that, they keep talking about the Andorians.
They do,
show.
But we haven't seen them yet.
Speaking of like aliens with the little antenna and all that, and we have to see them at some point, right? Like Andorians were a huge part of Enterprise, which I really liked that Andorian guy that was on there.
We have to see the Andorians.
He was in that Peter Jackson movie, and he was in Reanimator, the guy who played Andorian,
the creature.
He was in
what's it called?
The one with Michael J. Fox.
I know, I just can't think of it.
The Frighteners.
I didn't look at it. Frighteners, mother's dick.
Yeah, he was in The Frighteners also. He was that guy. And he was in Reanimator and Star Trek Enterprise, which is awesome.
The Frighteners.
He's a great actor. But yeah, I'd really like to see some more of those Andorians. Did we mention that this got renewed for a second season? Did we say that on here? I don't think we did.
I don't know.
I read that it was renewed, that CBS renewed it, which is crazy because we talked last episode about how Brian Fuller's original idea, and I was wrong. He only wrote for like Voyager and Deep Space Nine, I think. He wasn't on the Next Generation, but still, he wrote a bunch of Star Trek episodes. But his original idea was that each season was going to be a different time period. Like this would be pre-original series, next one would be original series, one after that would be Next Generation, then they do Voyager. And then they would go beyond that, and it would be after Voyager. So, I mean, I guess that seems like a lot of seasons to, like, say okay to, because that's, like, already, 6 seasons? So, I'm wondering what they're going to do. Like, I think that Brian Fuller's original idea was that this cast would either get killed or, like, something would happen to where they wouldn't continue on after this season.
No, I think at this point, even 6 episodes in, we're too invested in Michael. And it's Michael's play now.
Well, it's a 15 episode season is what they're doing, and we're not even quite halfway through. But you think that you want that because Michael's obviously destined to be captain eventually. Like I heard that too, but would they go on? I don't know. Well, I guess I'll be interested to see what they do. But I kind of like the idea of them going to the different timelines. And I would really like to see a Star Trek show that took place after all this other shit, you know. I feel like we're going back too much. Like maybe we should go to the end, you know, and see where the 25th century is or whatever, you know. I'd be interested in that.
I'd be interested in that too. But hopefully there comes a point where all societies are known and peaceful. Like that's the goal.
Okay, so you're saying that there may not be enough conflict?
Yeah.
Because weren't they anti-Federation people? Isn't that where that story came from?
I don't know. I didn't watch enough Voyager at all.
That's what I haven't seen any of it, but a friend of mine who was a Star Trek fan that was defending Voyager to me was saying that it was in the future where they had been wronged by the Federation in some way, so they weren't really for it. And I was like, well, that sounds like an interesting story. You know?
Yeah. So maybe that's where we go in the future, but yeah. I don't have a problem being anywhere in time. I just don't, and although I love the idea of giving us a season in each world, especially if we get a season in each world that looks like it belongs there.
Yeah.
If we recreate the look of the original series and then the Next Generation and then Voyager, that would be
they haven't really
fucking interesting to me.
They haven't done that though at all though.
They haven't. No.
They basically made this look like the movies.
The thing is, and that's what I'm saying, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's an awesome idea. It's brilliant. And it is a fan idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you're not going to sell that fucking shit to corporate dick bags.
Yeah.
So I think it's shiny Michael all the way.
Yeah.
And maybe that's okay.
Yeah, Michael and Ash Tyler.
Well, Ash. Yeah, they have yet to win me over with him, but I like the idea of a black woman being captain. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of a black woman being the main character.
Yeah.
That's fucking great. I kind of wish that she didn't have to be disgraced in order to be the main character. I wish she could just be allowed to be black and good at her job.
It kind of reminded me.
But I guess one thing at a time.
It reminded me of the Metroid games. Not in any sort of thing about race or whatever, but you start off the game and you got most of the weapons, and then something happens to you and you lose all of them, and then you spend the rest of the game getting them back. That's basically kind of how this show is.
No, you're right.
You see Michael and with all of the stuff that she had, and she lost all of it. Now she's got to collect it, so it makes it longer. That's kind of how, like I said, that's how Metroid Prime was. Metroid Prime 2 was like that too, where it's oh hey, you're really cool and badass, but all your shit's gone, so now you got to go get it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it reminded me of that, of the way those games
That's
operate.
Interesting. I like that thought, honey.
Yeah. It wasn't about her didn't think of her being defeated. I just thought about, well, maybe they just want you to see her and as a good position and then take her back to But I felt like that was also kind of like a thing where it's like she obviously, that it was trying to be like she was misrepresented. Like that was supposed to be part of what was compelling about it, because the one person that would have like fought for her was the captain, and the captain died. So like there was no way for her to really get defended in the end.
I think even though I
think her going against the captain was didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, to like full on neck pinching her and all that, it was like.
And the captain did come around and like run this last mission with her.
Well, yeah, no, she was like, okay, you're right on this.
At the captain's behest, not at hers. So yes, I see what you're saying, but the perception of her is still.
Yeah.
So I would like it if the perception of her was that she's a badass and she's a badass. Mm-hmm. I understand we need an arc and we need a way to grow, but.
Well, it could have just been some weird cuts too. I'm sure like originally it was written differently, because if they would have come at it to where like, maybe she had some like really good ideas that maybe they should have done, and the captain was like, no, because they're being unreasonable in some reason. And, the captain ends up dying because of not following her orders, which they should have, and then she gets imprisoned for it. I think that's like a more deep story than, right? Than the way they ended up doing it. And that may have been the original way it was written. And, like cooks in the kitchen and all that, sometimes producers have things changed or whatever, and there's budgetary whatever, we don't know like all the inside baseball for this, but it's, it could have been. I mean, that's how I would have, if I could rewrite it, like that's how I would have rewrote it, try to be like, where at the beginning you're like, oh, no, she has the right idea. Like, why aren't you listening to her? And then she doesn't. And then for some reason she ends up getting jailed because of it. Because, I feel like that'd be more compelling, I guess. Because then you'd be with her at the beginning and be like, what the fuck? And then, and then she rise up through the ranks, and then you have more.
I agree.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to say? Like, we haven't talked much about the Sarek one, but I feel like we kind of did by talking about like how important.
No, we talked about it at the beginning, I think.
We talked about how important it was to like for her to go into his mind meld time and all that.
Yeah, we talked about her feelings.
Yeah.
That's important.
So do you remember like where that ended? They found Sarek, right? They brought him to the ship.
Yeah, he's going to be okay.
Yeah. Where do you think they'll go from here? Oh, I mean, we didn't mention there was an interesting development between Lorca and that Federation officer, where you found out that they were sleeping together, and she was like, I don't know you anymore. Remember that girl that keeps coming by and giving him shit?
Yeah.
That kind of, where they're like drinking together, and she put down her.
Wasn't she a Becky on Roseanne?
No, she was not a Becky.
No, not a Becky. I mean,
she wasn't the sister either.
God damn it! What was she on?
Jane Brooke. She was in Kindergarten Cop. She was in Gattaca. She was in Chicago Hope.
Can I just see it?
She was in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. So like the Federation person, they had a relationship. They have a relationship, but she says something really interesting to him at the end. Let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll be done.
Okay.
Do you remember when she says like she's saying that he like turned into a different person, and that basically she made it sound like she was gonna like shut him down? Do you remember that? And we were both like, she's gonna die.
She's gonna die.
Yeah. Do you think he's gonna? I was almost for a second like, because you said before.
I thought maybe he was gonna put her in the airlock or something.
Yeah. What we said before, like what's so interesting about him is that he's like a wild card. Like you don't really know where he's gonna go, and he's obviously, I don't think he's gonna be like a decorated captain that we would hear about, because and like when he was on the Klingon ship, we found out that he was like the survivor of a whole fleet that died. Do you remember that? Like Mudd says that. Mudd goes full on like Storm of the Century to him, which is a Stephen King thing where he's like, yeah. I know everything about you. You cheated in 5th grade. Like you were not a good person. Like not like that, but you know, he does the same sort of thing where he's like, I know that you like killed all your crew pretty much and got out alive and all that. It's like, wow, he's got some shit. He's got some past there.
Yeah, I don't think you end up being him without going through some shit first.
Sure. Well, I wanted to end it with just like us, like, where do you think the show will go from here? Like, let's predict like what you think the next episode will be, or like what the next like few will be, and we'll see if we're right or not. I mean, that's one that I thought that maybe he's probably going to take out Jane Brooks' character.
Well, eventually they're going to have to invent warp drive.
Yeah. They don't have warp drive at all? They're just using the tardigrade?
Yeah. They have impulse power and tardigrade power.
Oh, okay, yeah. But that was, see, that kind of destroys my my theory earlier.
Is it tardigrade your theory?
Well, did they come up with warp?
See what I did there?
Yeah. Well, tardigrade. Yeah.
Tardigrade. Retard means
did they fully come up with warp drive in the Enterprise? I thought that Jonathan Archer's like dad created it, or he created like warp 1 or something like that.
He did.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're after that. If that exists, like we're gonna have to improve on that. We're gonna have to at least get to warp 5 because warp 5 was like the highest in the original series. I feel like.
Yeah. Because I was like, that's why I was thinking like, well, then maybe that destroy my theory that this is after Enterprise, because if they invented warp there and they don't have it now,
if they even if they have warp 1, they need to get to warp 5.
Okay.
Before the end.
Yeah.
So we need to work on the fucking warp drive. Yeah. We got to work that shit out.
I think what they're going to explore is they're going to explore ways to replace the tardigrade.
Yes.
Especially since they got into that thing with Stamets like actually willingly putting himself in the machine.
Yeah. I think they're definitely going to use that a couple more times.
So and Lorca knowing about that and them having that DNA, whatever that you need to shoot yourself up with so you can become a tardigrade, I think that's going to be used in some interesting way. Like maybe they'll do it in another species, or maybe they'll do it in another human, or I'm sure they'll do that for that type of thing. I mean, I think Lorca, do you think Lorca's going to go down probably eventually? I mean, he's going to have to go, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's
I think we're not going to trust him for the whole...
Maybe that's the thing. Like
I don't know, for a giant amount of time, because I think he's going to be on the show for a while.
Yeah, well,
but I think in the end he's going to go down in order to save everybody else, and then we're going to think he's a great guy.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, he's going to have to go down, and then...
But I think he's going to be around for a long time.
Eventually Michael's going to be a captain, even though it'd be interesting if Tilly ended up being the captain, because she's all like, I will be a captain.
Yeah.
You know? Which
And maybe she'll be a first officer, but... Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I think that this is about the Klingon War.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to deal with that. We're going to have to deal with it. We got a lot more Klingon shit to come. I think we're not going to be exploring a lot of planets.
Yeah, that's the serialized thing.
I think we're going to be fighting the Klingons. We might have like 2 fight the Klingon episodes. 1, getting to know people and visiting Risa, but not actually. Like, I don't think we're going to take a vacation on this. Yeah. Or like visit the holodeck, you know. I don't think we're going to have any of those episodes, but we might have like an intimate episode every 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm. Like a bottle episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because we really haven't had any like visiting planet episodes at all.
I don't think we're going to get them because I think the overarching story is too
maybe they'll get to that in
great
season 2,
and far-reaching.
Because this is very much serialized. Like they're very much doing it where it's like
it just depends on how long we fight this fucking Klingon war.
Yeah, because we have the Klingons always in the background, but they haven't really. I mean, they're like always there, I guess, as the go-to bad guy, pretty much, if it's not a tick monster that's pissed at you. So I guess that's probably where
if we can establish like some Klingon peace, maybe in season 2, then we might be free to have a more
I would still
lenient schedule.
I still would really love to see them drop down on a planet somewhere and just do like a crazy like original series style episode.
Well, it'd be great if they like needed a mineral, or if they needed a flower or something in order to power a sun, to
and
heal.
They got to stop on the planet.
There's plenty of ways that they could find to take a planet exposition.
Well, they could have totally
expedition.
Well, they could have done like that regular show episode that we just saw, which is pretty much a play on Star Trek, where it's like we're out of fuel and we can only go to this planet here that's shaped like a skull.
Yeah,
but that's the only place we can go
the
to.
Fear
so
planet.
Here we are. Yeah,
and
that
it
was
manifests
very much
everything you're afraid of. Yeah,
that was very much
totally a Star Trek. And at one point, the characters
plot.
were dressed as Star Trek characters.
It's true.
So,
but it's very much like, oh, we have to go here, and here's where all our fears are. So I would really like to see something like that.
I'd love that,
where they do like a landing party of like Saru and Lorca and Michael and Tilly.
You know what else is
we don't know.
I would like to expand our knowledge of the ship itself. I'd like to like meet some people in engineering, meet some people in 10 Forward, because there's a 10 Forward. There's fucking 10 Forward on every ship.
Yeah.
I'd like to meet some people who work in the interstellar mapping division. I'd like to meet some fucking doctors. Mm-hmm. Like, I would really, we need to make it a bigger world.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, they're making it smaller.
It's real small right now, and we need to like expand
they're
that.
trying to do like character
which is good.
development.
Yeah, no,
I
think it's great.
Which I like that.
I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying what I want it to grow.
With like where it came in on those first 2 pilots, like they really needed character development after that, because it was basically like, what the fuck? And a lot of people,
the fuck are these fuckers?
A lot of people were like, fuck this, I'm not going to watch it. And it's like, it took like the 3rd season for Next Generation to get
much
good.
Many shows. I kind of wish we could have cut
out
the actual pilot and started in episode 2.
You always have to watch past the pilot, and I think a lot of times you also need to watch past the first season, depending on how rocky it is. Like, some stuff is better at the beginning than others, you know?
I give it the HBO 5. With HBO, they always make fucking good shows, but they're slow about it. They got the slow burn. You gotta watch 5 episodes.
Well, we've seen 6 of this one, so...
And I'm in. Like, I'm watching now.
3 through...
I don't hate it.
Yeah, I think 3 through 6 were the most interesting episodes.
They definitely
once it started
were.
actually getting into an arc and all that.
But I just give everything the HBO 5. You get 4 episodes, and if in the 4th episode you don't hook me to bring me to the 5th, then fuck you, I'm out.
I'll watch the rest of it. Like, there's enough that, I mean, we've been talking about it for an hour here, so there's obviously enough for us to talk about it. So
I liked the past, like, 2 or 3 episodes a lot.
Oh, yeah. No, I actually really, because I wasn't really into...
It's still too shiny, but I liked it.
Yeah, but that's kind of, something you
we're
can't
not
really
getting
do
away
anything
from
about
it.
now, yeah. But I mean, I wasn't really into Sarek being in there, but this last one was actually interesting, you know, because it was more about
I'm so
Michael,
confused about why it had to be him, but it was fine. It was interesting in the end. I just don't know why it had to be him. They probably wanted to
connect it to some sort of original series thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand why they put Mud in there, but hey, I don't know.
We don't know anything, but we are going to keep watching it.
I'm saying there are better things to connect to the original series. Like, there's a lot of really cool shit. Like, you could connect it to the fucking weird time gate that was in there. That thing was awesome.
That thing was awesome.
Or like I mentioned before, Horda, the fucking carpet monsters. Like, put them in there. Those guys are great, you know? But any of that. Anyway, this has been our second Star Trek episode of episode 3, 4, 5, and 6. We've been the Honey Darling Show. We are still your hosts. I'm Trey Johnson.
I'm just Kenyon.
And, you can email us at thehoneydarlingshow@gmail.com. And
find us on Facebook.
Find us on Facebook. You can Google The Honey Darling Show and you'll find all sorts of our stuff. We're on YouTube also. You can find it on there. If you like the show, give us a review and all that fun stuff. And thanks for listening. Tune in next week when we talk more something else. It might be a movie. It might be Star Trek. Who knows?
Who knows?
We're one of those crazy loose leaf all over the place podcasts where we talk about all sorts of shit. Anyway, thanks for listening. And we'll see you in the skis. In the skies.
Adios.
This week on the Honey Darling Show, tick monsters go. This week on the Honey Darling Show, the tick monster goes. This week on the Honey.